Oh yeah, that was a kids show called Ace Lightning.
Hello, folks. Today's Ace Lightning interview was a very special one, as always. And as ever, it was an amazing gift and a privilege. Today I'm interviewing the singer of the Ace Lightning theme song, Simon Head of the Canadian pop-punk power pop band Foursquare.
Foursquare aus Canada.
Which kind of still exists, but kind of doesn't, as we'll get into. But Foursquare performed the instrumental to the song as well. The theme to Ace Lightning was titled There's a Hero, stemming from the lyric There's a Hero in Us All, which became the chorus, and as a bit of context, the verses were written for Simon to perform with the help of Philip Stanger and others for Foursquare to perform, and so that's how the theme came about collaboratively. Simon, I cannot tell you how nice it was to talk to you. Also how chill and funny you are as a guy. It makes these interviews great. Also the fact that I grew up hearing your voice as I kept coming back to this song. The show means a lot to me, and the music. Also music in general is good at unlocking memories and keeping things alive as the time passes by. So to converse with the singer of the Ace Lightning theme is pretty epic and legendary to me. Also, Simon's friend Brent. Hi Brent. Can be heard in the background in this video occasionally. Pretty cool. Let's hear it for Brent, everybody. Come on. Yeah. For my Ace Lightning reviews, it'll be interesting to talk about the music, what ended up being, also what might have been but did not come to pass in the soundtrack to this show, which gives some insight into the development of a TV show from the earliest stages, as music tends to be integral from early pre-production to when the show is ready to go. As well as this, what Simon has been up to since the Ace days musically, like being the tour manager at one point for Sum 41. Another Canadian group, a well-known and loved band, pretty awesome stuff. We talk quite a bit about Sum 41 in this video, but back to Ace Lightning, for I love it so. It's one of the earliest themes I remember hearing and loving as a child, and I'm happy to say it's never left me. I love it. Thank you Foursquare, thank you Simon. And so without further ado, let's talk to Simon Head today. So hi Simon, how are you?
How are you, William?
I'm great, yeah. Oh, look at Toronto.
There she is.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day behind you, and it's 7:15 at night for me back here in Scotland. So
You're in Scotland. Oh, okay.
Yes.
What part of Scotland are you from?
So I'm from the northeast.
Furthest I got that way was Glasgow. With Foursquare, we played there with Sum 41 in 2005. 2005. Yeah. Yeah, how far to Glasgow are you?
So I'm in the northeast, Glasgow's the southwest, so it's about 2.5 hours, 3 hours train journey, which is nothing, for, because I have been to Canada recently. I was in Toronto, actually, in July. That was really great.
Yeah, what were you doing up in this area?
Well, what I was doing, like the main thing, I really wanted to go to Ottawa because I wanted to go and visit Matt Fickner.
Hi.
Who, going back to Ace Lightning, designed the CGI characters for the show. And so Matt's like a good buddy of mine. He signed my Ace Lightning DVD, actually. I have that behind me.
Amazing.
Yes, indeed,
Very
yeah.
cool.
We got Ace and Lord Fear. Hold it.
Wow, very cool. I think I have that DVD somewhere. No, I think I have the PlayStation game. Someone sent that to me. I think like around the time when it came out. I just sort of got it. I don't know how I got it, but I got it, yeah.
Well, I know that because I think the show, like as far as home media goes, I think the show didn't get released on DVD in Canada, and then the video game, like you can get it in different languages, like in Europe, but the game and the show as well, in fact. But that's awesome. Yeah, talking though of different languages, there's two things. One is that you were in the band Foursquare.
Foursquare aus Canada.
Does Foursquare still exist, technically, or?
Not really. I mean, Foursquare sort of started in the early 2000s, and we carried on, so I want to say around 2014-ish, maybe 2012. The last tour we did as Foursquare was in Europe, I think 2012. And it was with just me, and there was a couple of people from Toronto that I sort of commandeered to be in the band. And that was sort of our last sort of real tour was in Europe. But yeah, Foursquare, I think Foursquare, I mean, I just had actually like the old original members. We like about a month and a half ago, we got my basement and like recorded some new music, but probably nothing will come of it because everybody's either a father or doing other things in other bands, and priority for them is not as high. Even for myself, musically, I'm not as priority driven to being in a band. You know.
No, I can see, and that sort of leads into one of the questions I've got about like what it's been like for you musically, you know, since Ace Lightning, but since Foursquare as well. But before I forget, we were talking about different languages and the Ace Lightning theme. So I have a DVD down here of a few. What I'll do is I'll just see if I can dig out the one. But there we go. So this is a copy of Ace, though this DVD is in Greek, actually. So I'll show you it there. So you see, like, the graphics the same as that other one,
Yeah.
but it's a color, and I think the fonts are still the same, but it's all in Greek. So yeah.
Our drummer would really appreciate that. He's of Greek heritage. He will very much appreciate that. Jason Liamanis, that's not a Greek last name. Yeah, he would definitely dig that. That's very funny. And you're a collector. Like, you have a whole bunch of stuff there, huh?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yeah, I love to collect, but I'm not crazy or anything like that.
A livid, forgetful collector. Or hoarder.
I do have a few things, some of which I have shown in other videos and some of which I haven't, at least not yet. But with the Ace Lightning review series I'm going to try and do, we'll bring in that stuff just when I can, because, yeah, there's a lot to cover. But with the Greek, the version of the theme song in Greece, I think it was the same, like the instrumental to the theme song that Foursquare did is there, but your voice, you were taken out and you were replaced by a Greek guy singing it.
Does he sound like me? Does he sound like me when he sings in Greek?
No.
No, not at all.
It's yeah.
No, it's just off-brand. So
it does still sound really great, but it is interesting just hearing that compared to how it was.
It's hard to take a stand. It's hard to do what's right. No matter how scared you are, you have to stand and fight. Πρέπει να προσπαθείς για να σ' νικηθείς. Κι αν κάποτε φοβηθείς, σκληρά να αγωνιστείς.
Because I think most dubs of the show, because it sold to like up to 100 different countries back in the day, which is really great, you know?
yeah, it's kind of ahead of its time too, right? With the sort of how they were bridging video games with TV and sort of branding it in a way that people would really appreciate. And I think a lot of I was saying to my friend Brent today, I was like, I think the reason they made the TV show is they could sell the video game.
It's interesting you say that, because what I'll do is I'll keep that over here. But with before we get to that, with most dubs of the show, they did keep the theme song the same, or it's either the English audio is still there, but they put a different language over that. Like the Russian dub of Ace Lightning is like that, and
Продюсер Джим Корстон. Повелитель молнии. Новая битва.
yeah,
cool.
And then there's one in Spanish, or not in Spanish, but in another language as spoken in Spain, and I think they changed it for that too. But yeah, so it's like either you preserve it in the English that it was, or you just change it, you know. So,
yeah. Did you hear the Game Boy Advance version of it? There's a Game Boy version of it, and it's like 8-bit.
Yes, yeah, I have that up here. Yeah, since we're talking about that. Yeah, I have everything, just about. Yeah, the cover to that is the same. Yeah, the cover is the same there as the PC and the PlayStation 2 version, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. But yeah, Simon, it's kind of interesting because there was, obviously we've seen it there and we were talking about it now, but the video game version of Ace Lightning, it was kind of the other way around. The way most franchises, I think, work is you have a successful video game and then you try and make a movie or a show out of that, which we're seeing quite a lot of now, like with, you know, video game movies being done better now. Like the new Sonic the Hedgehog movies, also the Super Mario Brothers film too. The newer one, not the one with Bob Hoskins. No disrespect, though. So yeah, video game movies are getting more effort put into them, much like how the comic book movie genre has hit potholes over the years. But the genre is doing fine just now, so video game movies look to be getting a similar treatment. And people are into them, so that's great.
But with Ace Lightning, it was originally Rick Siggelkow who co-produced the show. He imagined that the characters would all come to life from a comic book, because that's the sort of thing that he grew up with and really knows. And because it's a superhero show, you can see where that would come from. But I think with video games just being a little bit more popular at the time, basically they thought, well, maybe we could do it this way and just adapt that idea. So yeah, the show came first, and it was based on a video game that didn't exist in real life. So they thought, well, let's go back and make the game for commercial reasons, because the BBC is like, oh, we could sell something based on this, Yeah.
It was a smart idea. I mean, it was pretty forward thinking when you think about it, like how you'd market something. I mean, it really hit this niche of people, definitely an age category. They called them tweens, right?
Yes.
Preteen or teenagers.
Well, I mean, because I'm 27 now, so back in 2002 to 5, because that's when I think the show ended. So I would have been just below that age demographic. But the show, as you grew up, the show kind of grew up with you in a way. So yeah, basically, I agree with you there. That's true. That sort of tween, preteen sort of show. But I think the problem with making the game is that the BBC, who produced it, designed it, they spent a lot of money doing it. And basically, the amount that they spent to make the game made it very difficult for them to recoup their money. And they just said, we can't sustain the production of the show anymore. So it's kind of ironic and sad that the video game is what brought the show off the air, a show that itself was based on a game that never existed to begin with.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you made a show like that today, you could definitely make one off your laptop using Blender or whatever. You could definitely make a show like that. Anybody could make a show like that now. It's kind of ahead of its time with like CGI and actual live actors, and definitely very forward thinking when I saw how it was all coming together.
Which a few people have done that now. Like on YouTube, there's people who've done like fan stuff to do with Ace Lightning, and it's basically what you're describing. But no, it's amazing.
I knew I could count on you, kid. We'll make a lightning knight out of you yet.
I told you, I'm not a lightning knight.
Whatever. But being a hero isn't easy, Mark. It takes sacrifice.
But are you from Toronto originally, Simon?
I was actually originally born in England. I was born in Portsmouth. And then I moved over as a child, very small child. And then we grew up in the suburb of Toronto, a town called Pickering, which is now a city. And I went to high school around that area, and then eventually moved into the city a little bit as a 30-something, and then moved out of the city. And now I live in a town called Uxbridge, about an hour and a half outside of the city of Toronto.
No, those are names that I recognize just from looking at the map from when I was in Toronto, just going around doing stuff. But yeah, there's quite a few people who I think have that story where they're either native to Toronto or they've come over when they were very young. But yeah, there's an interview that I'd seen with you. It's from German television, which is on your YouTube channel. Yeah, because how did you come by that? Like, did they give you a copy or?
Yeah, it's actually when we had a publicist back in those days, a publicist would hook all those interviews up. And when we were on that TV show, it basically was like the major network of Germany, ABC. Like, it was huge. And we got on their morning show, I think it was the morning show. And in the time they sent us like a download link for the interviews, which was pretty amazing at the time, because sort of the internet was sort of there, but it wasn't like there. You know what I mean? Like, it was in the times of like 2003 or 4, whenever we did that. Yeah. So yeah, that was a kind of a cool thing. It was like the big time, we had like a real publicist that could kind of make things happen for our band over there specifically.
Yeah, no, and looking at the footage and just seeing you now, I'm like, yeah, Simon looks exactly the same as he did back then.
Come on. Gee, shucks.
Yeah.
Tell you what, Simon kind of looks like James Gunn, which only makes him all the more cooler to me.
Just hearing your voice now again, basically, like, your voice hasn't changed. I'm like, it's Simon Head.
The world can be such a lonely place.
I'm like, I recognize that voice.
If I'm in trouble, I can count on ease. I don't.
I'm not wearing the hat like off to the side. Like, everybody, my daughter watched that. She goes, "What is wrong with you? People don't wear their hats that way." I'm like, it was 20 something years ago.
Yes,
Right.
yeah.
It was in style back then.
You mentioned that some of your bandmates are fathers now. I was going to say, like, are you two? But you said there, yeah.
Yeah, I have a 21-year-old son and an 18-year-old daughter. So in those times, 2003, our son was born, and then I was sort of, still playing, not professionally, but I had other jobs and things. But I was traveling up to Europe, like in those times of like image-based TV, and the music industry was very image-based, that it was tough for someone over the age of 25 to actually even get noticed in North America. To a greater extent, it's still kind of like that, but when you went to Europe, it didn't seem like people didn't seem to care about how old you were. And that was perfect for us, especially me, because I was, in my early 30s at the time. So when it was time to go play Europe, it was like my ongoing joke as well. The Scorpions are still huge in Germany. And they're like, what, in their 90s, 80s? They're probably playing some ginormous dome somewhere in Munich as we speak. So Germans didn't care specifically about what you look like. And I think it's because there was an extra 1,000 years of culture, that we never had in North America.
I mean, we're a much younger countries. You can make the analogy to people. Older ones are wiser and more sophisticated.
And yeah.
Well, Simon, back in the day, you had to be good at it to succeed, or, look good sounding bad, which could be just as cool.
You had to be good at it to make it, or you had to look good sounding bad, which could be equally awesome.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, it's to a greater extent, it's what type of team you have behind you now. But back then, it was kind of important. Like you needed like a real group of people behind you to help you promote your art or your music. It was very political. It was very like, well, we have to do this to do that. We were on an independent record label, and we got offered major record label deals that I said, no, we're good. In hindsight, we should have taken. But there was definitely like a lot of like, there's a game, and you had to play the game. And at my time in life, like I was a new father, I was very like eager, but had that happened 15 years before, it'd be a whole different scenario because I wouldn't have had a house, a mortgage, a wife, kid. You know what I mean? Like it's hard as a musician to make a living and create success. And being a musician, you're inherently selfish. You have to put these blinders on. You have to go and committed to make things happen. And when you have children and a partner, that whole priority thing changes. It changed for me anyways. That's probably why I'm still married.
Yeah, it's that thing, and all that context I think is really important to where you've come from as a creative person, as a musician, and kind of where you've since gone after that. But I guess because the cool thing about this discussion, Simon, is I've been able to interview quite a few people who were involved in Ace Lightning on my YouTube page, and it's interesting before I go further because I think you actually discovered me. Well, I've known about you or your music and the involvement through Ace because that's really what jump-started this meeting that we're having now. But on my page, I'd sung, quotes, my own cover of the song. And I think you'd seen that. I was like, it's Simon Head. He saw it. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Like, oh, because you never know who's watching,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I sometimes just always sort of look around for what Ace Lightning, and there's a bit of a community. There's a bit of a tight-knit community of people that support the show. That's a very special part in their hearts. And it is fun to meet people who were basically, young children who are now adults and, functioning adults that do things.
Whoa, Simon Head called me a functioning adult who does stuff. Wow. Aw.
You don't know me, don't I?
That really warmed my heart. Thank you, Simon.
It obviously spoke to a larger amount of people than you think. You know what I mean? It was one of those things that was like, this is going to last, not just because it's a cool show. It really tapped into a community of children who are now adults. It's pretty cool.
No, that speaks, that's like me. That kind of, it summarizes me and my thoughts on the show and, the importance it has to me. And I think the community of people that like Ace Lightning or remember it, there's still a lot of people who know what this thing is, even though it did really, really well when it came out and then it just kind of disappeared from the television. But luckily the internet was coming to be what we know it to be now. So it just kind of managed to just reach up and pull itself back from falling into that chasm. of whatever. And the community, I think it was really, really active about 10 years ago, and there's somewhat of a resurgence, not because of what I'm doing necessarily. There's some part of that is kind of true, but between like myself and Joseph Marshall, shout out to Joseph Marshall, who's kind of the protege of Rick Sigelco, the executive producer of the show. It's like, oh, you're in direct contact with Rick. You know, he's your mentor. That's lovely. Yeah, but Simon, so there is an interview with you from a while ago now. It's on the Ace Lightning forum, which is basically, it's still there, it still exists, but I don't think anyone types into it anymore, because it's a good job that it does still exist, because it's like a piece of internet history. Like, this is how we communicated pre-Facebook.
The magic of computers, you know.
Yeah, I have no memory of that. When was that? Like, how long ago was that? So you said 10 years ago?
2005, 6, something like that. I really should know this. I can put it on screen now, and we'll find a date on it. But basically, there is some information about what it was like working on the theme from yourself. So basically, it's awesome that we're able to do this and kind of do a revamp of that, because I could say to people, if you want to know, you can go and read it, but there's also this video that we're doing now. But do you remember what it was like working on the theme song for Ace Lightning?
I do. I was, at the time, Foursquare was sort of in between records. We were just about to do our second record. And we were being courted by a booking agent who was just fan and a friend and wanted to sort of help maybe work with us and try to book shows in North America. And he actually called me and said, there's a guy that's just moved upstairs who is scoring for a TV show, and the music is out of his wheelhouse. And this guy, that was Philip Stanger, you needed somebody to sort of help write young, hip sort of power pop songs for TV.
It was like one of those things, like people in suits saying, we want to have this young, hip song.
So Simon, you mean to say you were contacted by the Men in Black?
Just slide with me, just slide with me.
Sorry.
And I've never worked on that, so I went and met him, and I brought my little guitar emulator. It was like a pod, and I played. He goes, oh, perfect. So I just played like 2 notes. He goes, oh, perfect. So then we ended up scoring sort of a couple of episodes, just as like, I was basically just taking the lead, and I was helping write these things. And it turned out like, he's like, well, we're doing the theme song, and the theme song has a hook, and there's a hero, and it's all.
There's a hero.
So I went home and I did a demo in like 2 hours with the verse. It didn't have any real words. It was all, but the chorus said, there's a hero, and it's all based on what he had told me. Like, this is what you got. It hasn't hit these points, right? So I ended up bringing it in. He goes, perfect, let's record it. So then a friend of his or somebody helped write the lyrics for the verses. I take no credit for the verses. They're a bit hokey, but I mean, what are you going to do? Kids liked it. So we ended up going to a studio. Well, actually, we recorded the tracks at my studio, in my basement studio, and then we took it somewhere out of the city and mixed it. And that's where all the different versions of the songs, like the instrumental version, the shortened version, the full-length version, it all came in this one guy mixed it. And that was it. That's what I was done. And turns out what happened, like a couple of weeks later, is Philip got fired. And then they brought in this whole other team to score the show. So all those scores, those things I'd written from the shows, like going for like whatever the first 3 episodes, they were all just rewritten. I haven't really watched the show to see if, and I don't remember anyways, if any of it really made it. But they, so I think they scrapped all the scoring and hired a whole new group, but the theme song stayed. So, and there was a friend of mine, Leo Valdesori, who played bass on some of that scoring stuff, like as the new team. And we ran into each other and he's like, I'm working on this show. And I'm like, I used to work on that show. So we were talking about like, so he gave me sort of the dirt about like what is happening. And then I just found out like, the song is going to be used and here you go. And what I did is I actually ended up signing away all my publishing for writing that song, because that's what apparently is what you did. So it was kind of bamboozled into it. I said, well, what if I kept 1%? like, then we won't want the song. So I was kind of like out of my element. I was dealing with, TV type people.
Just slide with me, just slide with me.
And apparently that's the norm. Is that the norm, Brent? Is that what happens? You sign away all your publishing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what.
Hi, Brent.
Anything from a network, you just sign away. And, it turns out if I would have held on to 1%, I probably would have had my house paid off by now. But anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. I think I got performance royalties. I bought a laptop with it. So that's sort of how it came together. And I postscript to that song coming out, it's played like all over North America. It's being played in like Australia, Japan, all these places that Foursquare had never played, but we had records released. Like we had a record release in Japan. We had a record release in Europe for sure.
I don't know if it's playing in Germany.
In uns allen, in uns allen steckt ein Held.
And, I sort of said, well, we have this great opportunity to sort of capitalize on the fact that the song is being played on like major networks all over the place. All we have to do is put a name to the thing, and then we can start playing shows and maybe go play like high schools or something, try to promote. Nobody did. Nobody jumped on it. And I'm like, well, all right, I guess, and the band, truthfully, the band, they weren't really hip to the song. They thought the song was kind of hokey. And, what am I going to do? We never played it live at any Foursquare concert. That's for sure. Can't do that in the punk clubs. The punk clubs would be like, what is this? What are you doing?
Yeah, well, this is the thing, and I wondered about bringing this up with you about how I think there's a lot of people that remember Ace Lightning and love it and love that theme song unironically. That would be me, and but then there's also other people who hear it and they're kind of laughing at it rather than with it. Like it's cheesy, it's this, it's that. I'm like,
you idiot.
It's supposed to be
totally
kind of cheesy, really. I'm sure you're cool with that.
The thing is, Ace Lightning was a kids' show. It's aimed at kids. There's stuff in there that transcends that. I mean, of course, I still love it. But as of the theme song, yeah, it's very 2000s. And if it's cheesy, it's done on purpose. So if you enjoy it, keep on enjoying it. And if you don't, it's all cool.
To me, it's so many years have gone by. If someone were to, for me, what I thought was, yeah, it's hokey and cheesy, but it's also getting played like 9 times a day, 3 different time zones. So what am I? It's the most successful thing I've ever done without even having a name to it, right? So who am I to judge? If it was forced onto TV because it was the theme song. But for me, it was like it just said performed by Foursquare on the credits. They didn't say who wrote it, which is
I think on Wikipedia it says Foursquare or it says Simon Head, and there's 2 things. One is thank you, Simon, for helping me pronounce the other guy's name, Philip Stanger. Is that how you say that?
Yeah, because that's how I did, anyways.
Yeah, because I always pronounced it Stanger, like
Stanger.
Yeah.
Philip was kind of a cool guy. Philip actually, he trained under John Williams. Like
awesome.
He was like, he was definitely like a real like scoring guy. Like his last show he did was that. What was that one? What was it? The Warrior Princess show. I can't remember what it was called. Xena. Yeah, he did the Xena show. Like, Warrior Princess.
I've seen bits and pieces of it on television, back in the day, but I was a bit too young. Yeah, I saw it was the Dungeons and Dragons movie with Jeremy Irons, and I thought it was like a bad television show, and it wasn't. It was a bad movie. With, I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it's that era of CGI, and I think this is where there can be a separation between shows like Xena or Buffy or even the Dungeons and Dragons movie, where sometimes the storytelling's really great, sometimes it's pretty terrible, but the digital effects for the time are normally the weakest aspect of all those productions. The practical effects can vary, but yeah, it's just, that...
In a time of ancient gods...
All of this sort of brings me back into this era of like 2000s media. And there is, on the back of the box here with Ace Lightning, there was this push of the selling point of the show being, oh, how cool this is. We've got live action characters and digital characters interacting together. And I was talking to Matt Fickner about this, about how, because Matt wondered if the show were to come out now or if it were to be rebooted, like not with a 3rd season, because they did make 2, but if like, would you do season 3 or would you just do season 1 and start over? But you wouldn't start with the selling point of the spectacle of the CG. So like, you read the back of the box here, and so episodes 1 to 7 of the CBBC action comedy, combining live action with stunning CGI. With stunning CGI.
Stunning is definitely stunning for sure.
Yeah.
I think if they were to reboot this TV show, I think they should do it ironically, and I think they should do it with all original actors.
Yes,
so
yes.
Everybody's like 40 years old. And they're just mad at their kids because they just keep playing Fortnite. And like, what about this show Ace Lightning? Oh, that's child's play. Don't play that crap.
That's dumb. Yeah, 7 electrifying episodes on 1 DVD. That's what it says.
1 DVD, huh?
Yes, I know.
That's how many they sold, probably.
There is a full 26 episode release of the show, which came from Hong Kong, which is subbed rather than dubbed. So we won't know what you sound like in Chinese.
Sparks.
Gotcha!
No! But,
Oh, wow.
Which they do make a joke of in the show. Mark Minardi's character, his computer craps out.
System warning. System
We got a virus, man! A bad one!
System warning.
And he digs out the instructions. He's like, this thing doesn't make any sense. It's like it's written in Chinese. As I look at the front page. It is Chinese.
This thing doesn't make any sense. It's like it's written in Chinese. It is Chinese. Forget it.
That's funny.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But talking though of the show, sorry, I completely derailed what you were talking about. But
I don't remember what I was even talking about.
Sorry, man. But did you watch much of the show when it came out, or have you seen much of it on YouTube? Because it's uploaded in like 2 different qualities now. There's the new ones that Joseph Marshall restored and put on to YouTube. But yeah.
No, I think it was out of my demographic when it was recorded, when it was first done, and it's well beyond my demographic now. Like as a 54-year-old person, I think I didn't really watch much, but I did watch the first couple episodes to see if they kept any of the scoring that I did. But my wife watched it because it was on around it was on at the time when we had our newborn child. So when she was at home, it was on CBC in Canada, and she would watch it, and so she'd keep me up to date about what was happening on Ace Lightning. But I never really watched it. Like I said, it was one of those things. I don't think I was the right age group, and I thought, well, maybe it's a weird thing for an adult to be watching this. Maybe.
Well, yeah, it's funny because in the Ace Lightning yearbook, which I don't have a copy of, I have another item I can show you in a minute. But basically, it's funny because the main character of the show, Mark, is his name, Mark Hollander, and his dad in the show is also named Simon.
Oh.
Simon, always with the jokes.
Did he call me Simon?
Yeah. Simon Hollander, yeah. So, and it's interesting because with Rick Sigelco, I think a number of things, because it's aimed at kids, but if you look at it and watch like episodes centered around Simon, Mark's dad, and reading what's in the yearbook, you do feel Rick's idea of like parenting coming through. And he said that he drew on a lot of his own experiences that the kids went through, particularly when they were going through their mid-teens.
Samantha breaks up with your friend Brett to start with you, then she dumps you and goes back to Brett, leaving you free to date her best friend Heather. That's quite a soap opera you got there.
And some of the interaction between Simon and Mark, like the father-son stuff,
Mark, that's enough. I don't think I've ever heard such utter nonsense. Now, I want you to get up, get dressed, go to school, face the music.
3 C's, a D and an F? We had no idea.
No more wasting time at that ridiculous carnival.
You mean I'm grounded?
Okay. Based on what I showed of Simon's interaction with Mark, you'd think he was too hard on his son, but that's what contextless clips will do for you. Besides, he's not. He's parenting his son when the going gets tough. And based on other moments in the show, he does love his son 100%, no doubt.
Sorry I missed you yesterday. How's it going? Do anything special?
No, same old trying to save the world as we know it.
Good to hear.
You don't understand.
I think I understand perfectly well. You've fallen in with the wrong set of lads and now you're in a bit of trouble. He's a good boy. Most of the time. And I won't have you telling me how to discipline him.
Help! Save us!
I have to save him.
Shh! It's getting to the good bit.
bitch! My son has a line.
There's some stuff in there from Fiona, from Mark's mum.
I realised I didn't need to be in the spotlight to be happy. I just needed to be a part of the team. So you go out there and help your friend.
Thanks, man.
But it's really just, it's really like you write about what you know. He's like, you know, I'm a producer. I've got this confidence in this idea. So I'm not trying to convince you that you would like it or get something out of it as a grown man now. But it's interesting that you mentioned that and reading about like the parent stuff, you know.
Yeah, maybe now it's all there. It's all on YouTube. Maybe we'll see. Just give it a watch. It's so funny now. My kids have outgrown it. Now, like maybe their kids will watch it one day in a couple of years. Maybe
they're a little younger than me, so they might just pick up on it and be like, I'm kind of okay with this, because with the storytelling and the effects and stuff, like you wonder, would this show work now? And going back to the theme song, I'm like, well, the message of the show 100% holds up. You know, there's a hero in us all. Corny as that is, it's just, that's why I love this show, you know, because the shows seem to come and go, like it was really, really popular worldwide and then it went away. Like for me, Ace Lightning never went away because I kept hold of like VHS tapes of the show. And they did make a few action figures of the show, which are rarer than rare, but I did find something really special, Simon. It's an Ace Lightning toy that's still in its box. So I'll get this here. Here's Ace.
Wow.
I know.
And it's sort of like, it looks like, it's funny how close to Toy Story that whole energy is right there in that box.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like that they've sort of captured, they're trying to, because Toy Story was out for a while at that point, but it seemed like to put it in a box like that. I mean, that's a thing too, like how they show action figures and stuff. But yeah, very cool, man.
Yeah, it does remind me of Buzz Lightyear, actually, a little bit, just the way it's presented.
Yeah, it's funny that Simon brought up Toy Story, as there's a part when Kilobyte, the big bad of the season, basically gets all unhinged, and just the animation of his human face made me think of Woody from Toy Story during kookier moments of that film. Also of Buzz when he was crazy, too.
I am Mrs. Nesbit. Snap out of it, Buzz!
But I love like the millions there, you know, like the candy, you know, and that's Ace's lightning bolt projectiles that he had in a little bag, you know, the thing that's here. And I'm like, yeah, it's so good. Yeah. A few of the toys cropped up online, like there's a few that you can see of the bad guys there, but in box it's very, very hard to find them. I'm on the hunt, I'm after you. But yeah, somewhat of a resurgence on this thing. I'm just going to throw out some little comments, like, quickly. But it's amazing. Sorry. It's just amazing to talk to you about the musical side of the show, because I think that, you know, in spite of all the changes that went on behind the scenes, like Stacey Hirsch, who was the composer for the show, Stacey was talking about how there was, like, the idea of the show was to sort of bridge the gap between the score, like the orchestral stuff, and then, like, the rock, pop punk stuff that was going on, too, at the time. Just to try and bridge the gap. But it's cool talking to you about this. And also, in season 2, there was a new composer. His name was Mark Thomas. And Mark is very unfortunately not with us now.
Oh,
but I know Mark, I'd read that he passed away last year. He was from the United Kingdom. And I thought, oh, that's unfortunate. But he did a lot of music for, like, kids' movies. I think more movies rather than shows. He did the score, I discovered, to the Magic Roundabout movie with Robbie Williams.
I don't wanna rock, DJ.
Which had a different name in North America.
Dougal.
I was like, oh, Mark Thomas did the score to that. I love that movie. I was like listening. I'm like, yeah, that sounds like him. Play clip. Yeah, no, he came up with some good themes for the characters. think all the rock stuff was, it was like Ace Lightning songs, the rock music. It was more orchestral, but it was really cool.
Yeah. That was sort of like I said, how I came into the fold is that you needed to sort of balance it between orchestral sort of stuff and punk power pop, which was sort of a big thing at the time. You had bands like early Sum 41, you had Papa Roach.
Cut my life into pieces, this is my last resort.
You had Simple Plan. All these bands were like kind of hitting at that time too. Like Jimmy Eat World.
It just takes some time, little girl, in a little out the right.
Green Day even were putting out like records at that time.
Something unpredictable, but in the end is right. Hope you had the time of your life.
I think also the music industry was kind of dead at that time. It was sort of like Napster, height of Napster.
Napster.
Yes.
Right? So anybody could download everything for free.
Yeah, Metallica famously spoke out against that.
Napster. Sharing's only fun when it's not your stuff.
And you were talking about publishing. It was on the Joe Rogan podcast where James Hetfield was explaining to his daughter about the publishing rights and how I think they own their music again now, but they never did for the longest time, which blew her mind because she's like, but Dad, you wrote this music, your band did, it belongs to you, doesn't it? Well, no, no, it's there's a whole legal aspect that unplugs you from the ownership of this material. Yeah.
We got the rights to our catalog. We own it, finally. I tell my kids, and they were just, what the hell? You wrote it. Why isn't it yours?
But I think that it's interesting because Ace Lightning was a British-Canadian co-production, and you're from Toronto or based in Toronto. And it makes sense because the show was shot there, worked on there. And I know, I believe at least that I used to think that Foursquare did lots of songs for Ace Lightning, ultimately, except you guys didn't. It was taken from a few different groups that are sprinkled into the show. And so I think from what I understand, those groups came from either Toronto or from Ottawa. And so that would explain why those sorts of groups and that style, it explains why that would be there just because of the way the show is produced. But a few of the names, a few of the songs and the artists that I wrote down, this is from the help of another guy. Thank you. You know who you are. The song No Regrets by Gob, that's the band name here.
Take a chance on me, but I know, this feeling that I have inside of me.
Die Hard Crush by Starling.
This guy on cable pulls a feather trigger, takes me back.
This Is the End by Not My Choice.
This is the end, I'm going away.
Fall, The Supers. Weird to You by Blair Packham, although they used, I think, alternative lyrics in Ace Lightning. So if you look up the song Weird to You, it's different words.
Everything is upside down, but as long as I have you around. Everything is upside down, but if my feet are on the ground.
Then Afterthought by The Whereabouts.
I know that I'm nothing but an afterthought.
And there is another song which a lot of people haven't been able to discover. It's the one I sent you. It's from the 4th episode because I thought maybe Simon would know, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you would,
Feel like a stranger in this winding road. 'Cause what I'm doing seems like nobody knows. This life is unfair. I'm a victim of circumstances, but I must keep on, keep it on. It doesn't seem right, it doesn't seem fair. Would you care if I told you? I feel like a stranger.
Something you may have noticed there is that I played the entire song, as it plays in Ace Lightning. I don't normally play any copyright material in excess of 7 seconds. Thanks, YouTube copyright system. Although if I play all that, then I might get a copyright claim. And us Ace Lightning fans might actually find out who did the song, fingers crossed.
Yeah, so Gob originally are from Vancouver. Tom from Gob is actually the other guitar player. Like, he's the third guitar player in Sum 41 right now. Starling, there's a guy, Ian, that I know from Starling. I think they're the Ottawa region, but they all live in Toronto now. Blair Packham, I just saw yesterday at a party. So he's still playing around and doing things. The other bands, Not By Choice. No, was that Not By Choice? They're from Ajax. The same city as Sum 41. So I'd be interested to see where all that... It seems like someone I knew might have been feeding them songs somehow.
Maybe somehow. Could have been. Yeah. Well, I think Canada, it's that thing of, I think a few of those groups didn't actually know that their music was featured in Ace Lightning, and people have told them, and that's how they've been discovered, much like yourself.
Yeah.
Because, and by the way, I think all these songs had to be discovered by other people because the show doesn't credit any of them in the credits. And so that's why with the title song, it does credit you. It doesn't credit Foursquare. It says Simon Head and Philip Stanger. But do you know why Philip was fired? Or
no, I mean, once we were going to work on another show. I don't think, and we were writing the theme song. It was a show called Blobhead. Right. And we wrote the theme song for it. Never got picked up. I never did ask why. You know, these things are weird. Like, people are like, well, blah, 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 blah. We don't want to work with you anymore. It's kind of how the industry kind of works a little bit. Very political. He seemed very easygoing and very, very... he wanted to do things that I was sort of like, oh, really? Want to do that? Like, I had just gotten off tour with Sum 41. I was a tour manager for like a year and a half at that point. And he wanted to like redo the Fat Lip song, and I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't think that's a good idea. And he was fully on board to do that, and we did. Never got picked up. But yeah, I have no idea why Philip was let go. I actually see him on LinkedIn from time to time. I should actually, follow up with him to see how he's doing, because he was a good guy. He still is a good guy, and I think now he's a professor or something. He's still scoring, but I think he teaches now.
Yeah, it's because with Canada, I think I shouldn't say because I'm not from there, but it's a country that I think there's so much talent in so many different things, not just the arts. But Canada, I think it's not always good at celebrating its own, and that's why when I was holidaying in Toronto, I was staying in Markham and was talking to somebody about how, like, if you want to make it big as a musician and you're Canadian, you move to America, because that's where, a lot of people do that. Not everyone does, but it's like, if you want to be known, then the American market is that much larger, and they'll get successful, and other people from, we know where will say, oh no, they're from Canada,
Yeah, I think right now, well, over the past 10 years, it's been like everybody goes to Nashville to write songs, and like, I know some artists that go down there and they do writing sessions they'll write like 15, 20 songs, and then they'll just sort of throw it against the wall. And then, so it is still like a commodity down there that people pick up songs and they hold songs. And a friend of mine is a musician, writes a lot of country music. That's kind of how he does his thing. He goes down there, writes 100 songs, and maybe one might get picked up by a band or a group or an artist. And it is an interesting, well, the market is bigger, but it also, you get a lot easier to get lost down there in the shuffle. We never made it a point to try to go to America because, I've toured down there with lots of bands, but for me, you really got to kind of have like a strategic plan. You can't just go tour like you can with Europe. You can go to Europe and just sort of tour and play places, and people are genuinely excited to see you play because you're not from Europe. But America seemed like a very kind of a sketchy, like not dangerous, but just like not a place, like people didn't seem to care, because it was like, well, we're the greatest mecca for all music everywhere, always.
It's sort of a winner-take-all system we have.
And then I think things are changing a little bit now because we're in a global community now. I think people can write music from their living room in Vancouver, and it will get played everywhere in the world based on its success or failure. I think the playing field is leveled. It's just there's no real money in it anymore, but But I still think there's more opportunity now than there was 20 years ago to possibly network yourself as a Canadian to the global community. I hope, anyways.
Well, I know like 10 plus years ago, like hearing about how America is the biggest market for music in the English speaking world, with the United Kingdom being like the second biggest one.
It's one of the most important markets after the US. I mean, it's the second biggest one, right?
Maybe not ultimately, but in many ways. Like there are some genres like dance music where unless it's lyric heavy, you don't have to speak English to enjoy it or understand it, because you're not listening to it for the song. It's for the moves, it's for dance and stuff like that. But yeah.
I think too, with like countries that don't speak English that try to write songs in English, we used to have like laughing fits in the van about we'd get demos from bands and it's like broken weird English. We like, just sing in your native tongue, sing in German, sing in Italian. Don't try to sing in English because it sounds like a fifth grader is writing your lyrics. Like,
yes,
there's a band out of Japan called High Standard, and they got signed to Fat Records, and Fat Mike rewrote all their lyrics for them in English. So they were singing kind of phonetically what they thought, but Fat Mike rewrote all the lyrics for them. And I thought that was, amazing, right? I had an Italian band who sent me songs, and I'm like, it's like, you broke my heart. I'm so sad. I'm like, you need to help. And I actually helped him rewrite some of his lyrics, but I would never consider to try to sing a song in German or Italian or French. Why
the nuance of it, it's just completely different. Yeah, these interviews are always amazing because it's just like it's the guy I grew up hearing or watching or whatever it was. I think we've just about covered everything. Cause I was wondering about like your career since, which we've kind of talked about, where it's not necessarily. I think you've always kept up doing music, and Foursquare I think is still recognized. Like there's an auto-generated YouTube recommendation thing for your music, but so that stuff lives on, and I think you yourself have kept up with your podcast and just making music in a different way from the beginning, just because life commitments just the way it is.
Yeah, I made a New Year's resolution this year is to write and release music this year, and time's getting short. But I started recording something in March, just a couple of songs here and there. And so I plan to put like a 5-song thing out. I'm not sure I hope to have it up by the end of the year. As if you own your own recording studio, there's no time limit, which kind of sucks. It's like you got to start putting the hammer down and doing the work.
You have to be disciplined to use that place. It's not,
Yeah, I mean, there was something to be said. Like I haven't paid for recording time. I paid for a little bit of it in March, but really made me work faster and harder and try harder because it's like, well, I'm paying for this because I've owned my own recording studio for 30 years. So for me to just pay somebody to do it, they're paying for their service for them to help me make better music. So I got to show up and be better. That doesn't exist in my carport recording studio. I just put some songs out and then I try my hardest, and then there's a level of like when you're paying somebody, it makes a different, I think, a different project. But yeah, so this year hopefully it's something out, not under Foursquare. Our first Foursquare record never made it on the Spotify, so I'm gonna probably put that out on Spotify and get like a DistroKid kind of thing where you can put stuff on Spotify. I got an unreleased Foursquare record that never actually came out that I'm gonna put there as well. So I'll put our first record and then a record I recorded like 10 years ago that never came out. And so then the whole thing will be there on Spotify, not Apple Music, because you gotta choose your enemy.
Yes,
So,
I can see. Pick your poison. Yeah, I can see why.
Yeah.
And I think there's a good quote from you that you probably don't remember saying from 20 years ago, where you said, "Yeah, record labels are for chumps." I can cut that thing I just said if you want, Simon. But
that sounds like something I'd say for sure.
Yeah. I guess, if you're signed to a major label, then you're going to have more airplay than if you're not. But you know this, of course, and it's sort of like, is this the greatest choice I could make, or is this not? And the answer is yes, you'll get a lot more exposure, but it's complicated. the politics and the royalties. It's complicated. But three quick things. One is me saying goodbye, but we'll do that last. You'll get a kick out of this. Going back to 2000s, pop punk music, whatever, grunge, whatever it is. Because when I did my cover of There's a Hero in Us All, for some of the bits, I was like yarling, because that was a thing people did back then. And I was like, yeah, I'm just going to do my best Chad Kroger impression for singing the melodies. No, 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 kind of thing. No, no, no. Yeah.
Yes. Invented by Pearl Jam, actually started that whole Yar thing.
Oh no, I knew that. Yeah. But
Rest his head on a pillow made of concrete again.
that maybe that's just something that was in my mind, because they did a song for the Spider-Man soundtrack, and I know Ace Lightning parallels a lot with Spider-Man, just the way it's conceived.
Taken. Saved. Reserved. Don't even think about it.
Okay, time for my major proposal.
But would you ever consider, Simon, and this will be our parting thing, would you ever consider revisiting the song There's a Hero in Us All? Like doing it like an a cappella or something, if you do that?
I haven't really put any thought into that, but I could definitely revisit something if it's, I think the anniversary is come and gone, I think, since the first season, but it definitely could maybe put something together. I mean, it needs to be a full recreation. I think when you do sort of acoustic versions of a song, it kind of loses its thing, especially that kind of music. But yeah, definitely there could be, I'll do a tease and say, yeah, there could be a possibility that something's happening.
Well, no, I only ask, you probably didn't expect this, but no, for the review series that I'm doing, because I was hoping to get my review out by 2022 so that it would be done for the 20th year of Ace, but next year it'll be 20 years since the show finished, so I'll hopefully try and get all that done for that. But no, I only ask because what I could do is we could do like a thing where I have my vocals, and we do like, we'll erase the original vocal from the original, and we can do like a cut back and forth on video where it's you singing, then it's me and others. But it's kind of a pipe dream, but then again, if you want something to happen, you don't just sit and imagine it happening, you have to act on it.
Well, we acted on it.
But I'll tell you what, because that's a wild fantasy that I've got, but shall we can discuss that and come back to it sometime maybe?
Absolutely. You can do weird things now with music. You can remove all the vocals, you can have just the vocals. Yeah, so every year that goes by, it becomes more easier to sort of extract and even use the original version of the song and, do some. I'd be up to that.
Well, no worries, yeah, but in a way that honors what you did, and because the way I just described it, I thought, oh, that sounded arrogant. Like, remove your vocal and put mine in. It's like, no, we'll tag team the song, so we'll have different bits. It's like, I hate the film, but Blues Brothers 2000 has that end song where all the guys and the gals sing a bit of the song each. I'm like, this movie sucks, but I love some of the music in it, especially that song.
For sure.
I'm sorry if you like that movie, Simon.
Blues Brothers 1 all the way. Blues Brothers 2, 2000, whatever it is. Nah.
Yeah.
Right, Brent?
Hi, Brent.
Oh, Brent never saw the second one.
Okay,
Big
Brent.
Scoop.
Brent, Simon, can I swear, please?
Yeah, absolutely swear.
Right,
Simon, you can't hear it because I got headphones.
Brent, the movie, we'll play this back. Brent, the movie is bullshit, but I like some of the music in it.
He says the movie is bullshit, but he likes some of the music. Well, there you go.
Yes.
Pumpkin asshole. Pumpkin asshole.
In fact, I enjoyed the music so much, I picked up the soundtrack on CD.
I'm doing a documentary on a blues guitar player that actually played on a lot of that stuff, like early, like influenced a lot of that stuff, played a lot like Muddy Waters and Buddy Guy. Yeah.
No, awesome. But yeah, the Blues Brothers movies, that's one where a lot of those artists have passed on as well. Like, and like Cab Calloway. And B.B. King.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3, ho!
And Aretha Franklin.
I to the ESPECT.
Yeah.
But yeah, the soundtrack is made of some good covers from that genre, but the story itself, no. So I'll send you a clip of the end titles for Blues Brothers 2000. Be like, let's do that done better, and we got something.
I hear you. Awesome, man. Well, great.
Yeah.
Come on, everybody, take a trip with me. Down to Mississippi, down to New Orleans, man.
No, thank you, Simon. Thank you so much for your time. This was an amazing gift. Thank you.
It was my pleasure, man. Thank you for keeping the spirit of Ace Lightning alive, and I hope we can do this again.
Well, thank you so much.
Okay, awesome.
Bye.
Ta-ta.
It's hard to take a stand, it's hard to do what's right. No matter how scared you are, you have to stand and fight. And we don't have to play this game all alone, 'cause there's a hero. There's a hero in us all. There's a hero. There's a hero in us all. There's a hero in us all. You have to do what's right. You have to do what's good. It's hard to stand and fight when you're misunderstood. We don't have to play this game all alone, 'cause there's a hero. There's a hero in us all. There's a hero. There's a hero in us all. There's a hero in us. The world can be such a lonely place. Ching, 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 ching. When there's not much out for you at home. You at home. If I'm in trouble, I can count on Ace. I don't have to play this game alone. There's a hero. There's a hero in us all. There's a hero. There's a hero in us all. There's a hero. There's a hero in us all. There's a hero. There's a hero. There's a hero in us all. There's a hero in us all.